glad to be listening.
All right, it looks good. So, just to start off, I don't know if you've ever been interviewed, but you have to talk in complete sentences and rephrase questions. So if I ask how old the church is, you can't just say, 260 or whatever it is, because they don't actually hear my voice. Does that make sense?
Well, wait a minute. Can I subtract? How old is the church? 200.
200.
Wait a minute. 1755.
200.
55, 65,
Almost.
70. I remember the 250th, but
Mm-hmm.
well, let's figure that out before we start.
Can you do it?
All right, tell me. Okay, what year was it?
1755.
1755.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we've had our 250th.
262.
It's what?
262. That would be, yeah, because we've already been through 2017. So 262. We went in the, what is that room called? The historical room?
Historical room. Mm-hmm.
And we took pictures of the quilt that was in there.
Yeah.
The different blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And that was such, did you help do that quilt?
No. That was before my time here, even.
I've got this remainder cough. I hope I'm not getting anybody sick. I just have a cough left over. But I'm eating these cough drops. I may have to get up and get me some water.
Okay.
Do we have any water in the car?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got that
All
cup.
right, let me see. I was going to see
Okay.
if there was a quilt. Okay, go ahead.
I got water in here. That's fresh water.
Okay.
I'm good. Is this the restroom?
No, there's a.
Oh, a cup. There we go. No,
Take one of those down at the bottom.
I got you.
Those cups. And get it out of that right there.
The blue or the purple?
The blue one.
Okay. If you don't mind, that would be good. That way I won't hack any y'all's video.
I take that down and fill it up.
Oh, that's a smart way, isn't it? Okay. Got it. All right, what did we say?
And,
262.
Just for this mic, for some reason it doesn't pick up just as well. So, talk like I'm back in that closet. And talking louder actually makes you sound happier too. So.
Do you need to move that closer?
No, it's good. So, to begin the interview, can you tell us about 10 seconds to 20 seconds of who you are and how old you are, if you feel comfortable?
What do you want to know now?
Like, who you are, how long you've been with Hawfields, and just stuff like that.
I am Iva Freshwater, and I married Carl Freshwater, who was born and raised here at Hawfields. And he brought me here as a bride in 1947, which was, I've been saying 70 years, but I think it's getting up to 71 by now. And I joined the church in Hawfields in 1947 when the Reverend Mr. Fleming, Neil Fleming, was the pastor.
And how old were you then?
How old was I?
Yeah.
28, I think,
Okay.
or 9.
Where did you grow up?
In New Jersey. I was born and raised in New Jersey as a Methodist until I came here. Carl had been a Presbyterian. He joined Hawfields Church when he was 13. And I figured if he was going to any church, he was going to go to his home church. which was Hawfields. And I will never forget the first Sunday I was here. Mrs. Fleming, which you don't remember, didn't ever know, got me at the front door of the church and introduced me to every soul in the church. I, of course, didn't know any of them, and it was over a year when somebody said to me, "Do you remember coming here? Do you remember?" I always say, "Yes, I remember meeting you," because there were so many new faces there, and they all welcomed me. That was one thing about Hawfields. I was Carr's wife, and coming here as a stranger, but I was welcomed. Loved it.
It is very welcoming. What schools did you attend? What school did you go to?
In New Jersey. Well, I have a picture behind you of, that you can't see if it's not just right, of Daretown when I went to grammar school, and then I went to high school in Woodstown, New Jersey. So both of my schoolings were in New Jersey.
Okay. Was it like 1st through 12th?
1st through 12th grade.
No kindergarten? All right. How were you baptized? How were you baptized?
Sprinkled
Sprinkled.
in the Methodist Church, yes. And in my baby book, my mother had it down when I was christened. I have it at home. I don't have it here.
Okay. Were you in a youth group? Were you in a youth group in New Jersey?
I didn't get the question.
Were you in a youth group?
It wasn't what we called a youth group. It was just all of our youth. Well, in our church, we called it the Standard Bearers and the Ushers Union. The men were the Ushers Union and we were the Standard Bearers. And we did everything together.
Okay.
All of our activities were together. Our parties were together. And our one big thing we put on every year, the young people, was a Halloween party. And we had a Halloween party where we, everybody dressed up. The adults were dressed. It was the big social event at that time. And the year that my grandfather died, he was buried about 2 days before the party was to be. And some of the older folks in the family thought it wasn't proper for us to be going to a funeral, to a party after the funeral. But they finally decided that there were my brother and I and a cousin. And they figured as long as we didn't dress up and carry on, we could go. So we went to that Halloween party, and we had, that was our money maker. We had cider and pumpkin pie and that we sold, and popcorn. I think we had popcorn. But it was a church affair, but it was fun. And the adults took part. That's one thing that we liked. We all got out and enjoyed it.
Just like the Hawfields Haunted Forest. Did you have meetings? Did you have meetings for the youth group?
Tolar, why don't you concentrate more on what happened at Hawfields
No, I
once
don't,
she got to
think so.
Hawfields?
Okay.
I don't remember having meetings too much.
Okay. Can you tell me about what activities you did in Hawfields? Were you part of the women's group?
Oh, when I joined the circles, of course, and was active in the women's group. I was president of the women, trying to think, was it twice or 3 times? I know I was busy. Taught Sunday school. Sang in the choir at one time. What haven't I done? I have not been an elder. And you know why? Because at the time my name was put up with another person, another lady, the man of the church didn't want any women on the session. Well, I don't think the church did either. They weren't ready for women to be that active, and neither one of us got it. But I was a deacon. Now, if you took the women off, you wouldn't have anybody doing any work. I had to get that one in.
So, when would you say the big transition between not letting women serve on the committee and letting them serve was?
When?
Yeah.
I don't know what year, but it's been, because time flies, so I don't know, 20 years or so, maybe more than that. I'm not sure.
So around the
But
late 90s.
it could be.
Do you remember who the first woman on the board was? Who was the first woman that served as either a deacon or an elder?
I don't remember offhand who
Yeah,
the first
I don't know
one
either.
was. But I do want to tell you one thing. The first youngest elder they had, I've heard this story from all along. It was Earl Covington. Earl was Joe's father. Earl was very active and a leader with the young people. And they had a lot of young people. And it could have been Pat Williams' area, her group, about that time. And they were the ones that put Earl in when it came time to elect an elder. They put Earl's name up. You know, we were allowed to put somebody up from the floor to nominate them. And he got it, and he was the youngest elder that they ever had.
Okay. Is there any specific building that you have significant knowledge of?
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Well, now, I remember when they were building the fellowship building,
Mm-hmm.
they were just starting that when I came. I didn't have it, I wasn't active in doing anything on that, because I was too new and busy. We were building the house and whatnot. And they would have, now I've forgotten what they called it now. Anyway, the big dinners. and make Brunswick stew and
Mm-hmm. The lock-ins? Lock-ins?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, the older men. We had a lot of men that worked at that.
Okay.
And we used to have a men's choir too. I remember that. A men's Sunday school class, older men, and they could sing.
So was that building pretty much a community building?
It was then, yes.
Community.
It had a shuffleboard in there, plus the basketball, and it just got so people got to be destructive, and they had to change it. But then the educational building, I was on that committee when that was built.
So this was about 1950s?
Yes. No, about 60, 65, around 65.
Okay.
And they, at that time, they would not have a secretary who was a member of the church, which they felt was good to kind of keep the gossip down, maybe. That might not have been the appropriate word, but, you know, not to give out too much family information. And, but our secretary got sick and left. And we knew that she was going to be gone for a little while, and that they only needed a temporary secretary. So they let me do the job, because Jim Scott was the chairman of the building committee on the educational building, and he says, if we have you in the secretary's office, you can keep an eye on what's going on. So I had two jobs.
Mm-hmm. So how long were you secretary?
Oh, only about 6 months.
6 months, okay.
Yes, I knew it was going to be temporary.
Mm-hmm.
Tolar asked her where her office was if they were building a new building.
So where was
The what?
where was your office?
My office was in the heritage room. And the pastor's office was in the other half of it, where those sliding doors are. That was not the... fact is, one time they had a pastor's office up in the educational building. I mean, in the fellowship building, upstairs. Not while I was there, though.
Okay. Have you got any specific questions?
I was just, it always is interesting to me, they built all those Sunday school rooms. Did you have that much attendance that you needed? I mean, that's a lot of space between
Right?
the older section right behind the sanctuary, all those buildings, those rooms upstairs behind the fellowship hall, and you still needed more.
Yeah.
And that was in the 50s, 60s?
Yeah. Well, you see, the men had a class, the older women had a class, the younger ones had a class, and different age groups, and the young people, I don't know how they divided all of them up. Well, there was one thing I did not do. I was never a youth leader. I had kids going there, and I didn't have time to do it all. But I've done about everything else in the church.
Now, where was Carr's home place? Y'all built the house that you live in, this house here?
Across the field, across the house is gone now. You can't see it. It's back behind where James will be living, where he lives. Yeah.
Ask her about the bathroom situation in the sanctuary building.
So how are the bathrooms in the sanctuary? How are the bathrooms in the sanctuary?
We've never had
You've never
one
had any.
in the sanctuary.
'Cause there's
We
no
had-
water, right?
You know, I don't know where the outbuildings were.
Billy didn't know
They
either.
were out there somewhere.
Out behind the session house, maybe.
You know, it's tough to think about. I don't remember. But you know, out there we had the rail fences.
Mm-hmm.
I think they said they tied the horses to them. That I don't know.
But you had to go to an outhouse.
Yeah, we had to.
Mm-hmm.
There was no bath facility at all. And there was a pump in the front yard there, water. I do remember that.
But you didn't have indoor plumbing at your own homes either.
No, we didn't need it,
Mm-hmm.
not until we got in there.
Mm-hmm.
Fact is, we didn't have electricity for 6 months, 6 weeks. Oh dear. I still got those kerosene lamps too.
So when do you think plumbing was popularized?
When was it?
When? Yeah.
Well, it's according to the area you were in. Here, I don't know. Now, on the farm where I lived, we had water pumped in because we had to have it for the cows. But we had the outhouse too. Until the 50s, I guess. No, not the 50s, the 40s. I don't know.
Tell her, ask her if she's been over to the original site.
Have you been to the one where the candy factory is, that site? The original site of the church?
Where the what?
Where the original site was?
Yes.
How'd you like that?
I've been down there. It's not taken care of probably as well. The scouts have cleared it off, but I don't know how how the upkeep is now. I haven't been there recently. It's been there. It's been a few years since I've been there. But there are some stones there, and I wish they would have some more markers or something. There may be more than I know about. I don't know.
Okay. I'm just interested to know more about your activities in the church. You said you were president for 2 or 3 years of the
2 or 3 terms.
terms.
And ask her how many children she had in the church.
So,
Well, I had 2 older boys who were raised there, Bob and Kenneth. And of course they left and went off. Bob joined the Navy. And Kenneth went to Washington, and he's never has been back here. I mean, to stay. But Bob comes quite often. He's not well now. And then the Freshwater kids, they were raised here. And are around now. And their kids, You see, James is, his mother was Susan, and she's the one that's been coming with me lately. And then Mark is, he works. I can't ever tell what his schedule is. And he's got, and we bring Jonathan when we can, when he's available, and that's a great grandchild. I got a great one coming.
All right.
How many brothers and sisters did Carr have?
He had one sister and one brother, but the brother never lived here. Oh, now that's, are you taping this?
We can stop it.
Well, James was here a couple of nights ago, and I said, oh, gosh, all of a sudden I can't think of her name. Anyway, his wife.
Meredith.
Oh, yeah.
Couldn't, hadn't heard a lot of this stuff. And I said, this is really a Peyton story, Peyton Place story. And I said, I do not know a lot of the details, and I don't want to know them. What I don't know, I can't repeat.
Well, because on one of the old Alamance County maps, did you bring one in here? You got it on your phone.
Okay.
He's been looking at the trading paths, and I think it went down Kimry Road.
Right.
And there was an old freshwater store. I didn't know if that was any of your people or...
All freshwaters were.
So there was an old freshwater store.
Because that's what Meredith was looking at last night, night before. The freshwater came here in 1799, and all freshwaters in this area are from that freshwater. William Armstead. Now, how close they are, I have it in my genealogy at home. I mean, in my computer, but I don't have it off the top of my head. I got lazy that way. Anytime anybody asked me anything, I'd run to the computer to find the answer.
Did you know where the old trading path went?
Yes.
Tolar.
We had it, Uncle Chester, now, you never knew him either, did you? You didn't know him. Well, he would come to church with us for a while there before he died. And between he and Dewey Covington, I learned all the history of the community. But the trading path ran somewhere between Mr. Jim Covington's home and back and through our property and on down the road. Where it went from there, I don't know. But there's an indentation there yet.
On your property.
Can you tell us about the freshwater store?
No, you'd have to show me where, if it was a blacksmith shop, I could show you where that was.
Okay.
Because that was right around, about there at James's house.
Was it a shop or a store?
There was a mill. It looked to me like over there where Mary Scott's house was. It was some kind of mill on that map.
Well, I don't know what that is.
I don't know either. you know, all those little streams that come out. One goes over there near your property, and it went
Did
over.
you find something to sit down on? It worries me to death standing
I started coughing. I didn't want it on the thing. I think the trading path crossed over there behind where David Cox lived.
Where who?
David Cox, you remember over there
That's
where the
right.
Coxes? Told you to
Because
show
it
her some
would
of
go
these,
on
because I don't
down.
know where
Yeah.
this,
Can you flip through that?
yeah, see if you recall any of these things or where they might have been.
That looks more like down the road, the Clendennings or something. On down, you see where Freshwater Road is down there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now all of that, that's what James was asking me the other night. How much land did he own? And I said, all we know is that he had 8 children, and he left each one of them 200 acres.
Mm.
But where that 1,600 acres was, we're not exactly sure. No, I don't recognize that. And a lot of the people don't remember that pool out there, the other side, and then of the church. Yeah, I remember when this was built.
Where did you get these books from, the history room?
I went out there with Billy, and we took a picture where the pool used to be.
Oh, did you? Did you
Yeah.
find it?
Where was the
No.
pool?
It was near the session house,
Yeah.
between that whole yard.
Oh, I know.
There's a picture.
It probably won't that deep.
Yeah.
Now, Chester went to
Is it where the
school
ladies have
in
a
that
garden now?
session house.
Who did?
Who did?
When we first had the Golden Age party, we'd have all those old folks that used to go to the school there and the session house come, and they enjoyed that, and all those old folks. And that's how I really got in with the old folks there. And they knew that I knew everybody, how they were related. And if I would go to homecoming after that years, they would single me out and say, "Where's so-and-so? And what's happened to this one, you know?" Because they figured I'd know. Oh, that's how I got to be the know-it-all.
Well, you're still very active. I mean,
Oh,
you still
yeah.
go to the circles and things. You're still very active. You still go to circle.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's remarkable.
Iva, do you remember, wasn't there a school right there near your house, near where the big water tank is now? Is that the schoolhouse they moved to the church site? No. What school was that?
That was the old Hawfields School. Yeah. Carr went to school there.
He did.
It had 2 rooms. It was on the Kimry property. It was there when I came here.
And they were going to school there when you came here?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
no. Oh gosh, Carr could tell me. He went to school there for a few years until Alexander Wilson was built. And then went to Alexander Wilson. And he graduated from Alexander Wilson the first year that they had, or the last year, they had 11 grades instead of 11 instead of 12. He graduated in
So where did Dave Murdoch and them get that schoolhouse from?
Where did what?
Dave Murdoch and that group?
It was down on Hillsborough Road somewhere. I don't know where.
So they moved it from Hillsborough
They
Road.
must have.
Now how about the old post office?
Oh, the old.
That's off of 119 and Jim Minor.
But the one that they moved to the church property over there between
Did they
the
move it to
Covington
the
shelter, they moved it from somewhere.
Where did that move to? That post office off of Jim
Where's
Minor?
the post office building?
Over there, the old schoolhouse, they moved over there near the Covington shelter.
Yeah.
I don't know where he moved it from.
AB would
Well,
know
the
that.
schoolhouse is supposed to have come from down Hillsborough Road. But the old post office, I don't know if they've moved one, or where it came from. But the old post office used to be up on the corner of 119 near where Jim Scott lived when he moved from where the Loys live, across the one on the other side. And the one the Kronbergs lived in. Now I remember when that was moved. That was the Ralph Scott house before he built where Billy lives. Because I remember Ralph Scott saying, "You gotta watch what you're doing over at your house now. I can see all the way across there." And it could. I used to be able to watch Bill and Nancy's lights, and when they lived in that garage over there at Dewey Covington's, there, we used to be able to see across there. Can't see anything now.
I think AB was the,
This looks
was
like
the
some of
pastor
the
when
stuff I got.
buildings were moved there.
He might have been, probably
I
was.
think he was. 'Cause he was talking to me about that one time.
I have Carr's aunt was an old maid, and she kept records of everything. Just any old piece of paper that she had, tablet paper or anything. I don't know how old she was, 85 when she died, I guess. And I have where it says that Carr and Alice and his brother were christened on this certain day at Hawfields by Reverend Hansel. And I mean, I would take that to be gospel if she wrote it down, because she wrote everything down. I got it in my records as gospel. That couldn't be any more true. Mr. R.W. Scott, yeah. He was the
Oh, I'm gonna dash you people.
Get out.
Oh yeah.
Oh, here's where they dedicated the session house in 1976 after being restored.
and that was after it was restored, yeah.
Was the earliest school in the area.
School.
Mrs. Hattie Idle and the Evanses and Uncle Chester and their cousins, Freshwaters, May and Minnie, they all went there. Yeah.
So it was a school and session house.
No, yes. Hawfields School and the session house, I guess that must have come first.
Where was it sitting? Was it always sitting where it is now?
Yeah, I think in the general direction. I don't think that's been moved. If it's been moved, not very far.
I think they might have moved one building. but I'm not sure on that.
The session house.
Not the school.
Oh, the schoolhouse.
By the session
yes,
house,
that's
yeah.
been moved.
Mhm.
I mean, that hasn't been there very long.
Yeah.
But I mean, the session
Session
house
house.
itself,
Mhm.
I don't think that has, like I say, if it has been moved, it hasn't been moved, but just a few yards or something. Maybe when they were building the fellowship building, they might have moved it a little bit or something. I don't know about that. I wouldn't swear to that.
Good. Good.
I have pictures of, I mean, they're not old pictures, of senior citizens. A lot of the trips we took, we had a good time.
So, like, name a few places, like,
Well, we went to the beach every spring, but it was a group, people that you won't know their name. You won't know them, neither your mom might. Like Hazel, Herto, Catherine Farrell, and the John Woods went with us. And then after a while, some of the younger people started going with us. And we'd go to Montreat every fall. And if we couldn't get in for some reason, we went to Massanetta. And what is the Methodist, that's Massanetta, isn't it? Yeah, what's the one that the young people went to up at,
oh, what's that camp we went to for about a weekend?
Haynes? Camp Haynes?
Camp Haynes.
Maybe.
no.
Not Montreat.
If not, it's Massanetta. So,
Anyway, we went to another place up on the mountains.
mhm.
And we stopped by Russell Fleming's church and went and visited him before he died. Well, now that was unnecessary. If we visited him, it had to be before he died, didn't it? I was looking at my, a couple of the church directories that I had, looking at some of those people there. And, you know, I can't remember some of them, who they were. And I saw how you kids grew up.
Mhm.
Of course, I didn't have any problem with that, because you always sat behind me. I thought you ought to know the back of my head by now.
That's right.
Do you remember when we sat, Howard News sat next to the window, and I sat next, and Carr sat next to me, and then Jessie, Jim Scott's wife, and then Jim. The five of us filled up that pew. And one Sunday, I'll never forget it, Jim came in and arthritis was so bad, he was hurting. He says, you know, I think I'm the oldest member of this church. I said, Jim, you know you're not. And going home, I said to Carl, you know what Jim said to me? And I started a list of the adults that I knew how old they were when their birthdays were. And that's where that list came from, that so many people have seen of all those old folks. I have to keep one in every pocketbook I can. Because they want to know how old this person was. But
How about the men walking to church? I remember that as a child.
oh yeah,
Coming down 119, who were the men and did they do it every week?
they didn't do one. They came in our dirt road. Car Scott and Ralph Scott and my boys, Kenneth and Bob, used to walk with them around the dirt. Our road, well, our road, Kimry Road, was a dirt road until 70. I remember it well. I went out the next day. They were getting ready to hard surface it, and they had dug it up, and it had rained. Homecoming.
Now, on one of those maps on Kimry Road, looks like Kimry Road. I think it was an old path. They had a colored church. Was there a colored church on
Yeah.
your road?
Still there.
The front part of it, right?
Mhm.
And you can see that when you come
Mhm.
up.
It's Melville.
Melville Church.
Mhm.
And the folks that lived all around there, how did they settle in that area?
I don't know. They were there before I got there.
They were there.
Albrights.
Albrights. Those were the Albrights.
Mhm. They were the black Albrights.
So they were connected to the other Albrights.
Mhm.
No, they were just different.
No.
And they had a church there.
Yeah. And one day, one time, well, you don't remember, oh gosh, what was his name? Coble. George. Anyway, it was Coble. He was the nicest black guy. And he worked for everybody around, and all the Scotts and the Covingtons, and you all knew him. He was a good guy. So this day they invited Mr. Buchanan to come and preach. Have you heard that story? Yeah, they were going to have something special this Sunday night. Well, and they invited Mr. Buchanan to come and preach for them. They were going to take up a special offering, I think. And Linwood came by, Linwood and Ellen came by our house and told us, says, we're thinking about going up there to that meeting tonight because the Hawfields was invited. And so Carl and I got ready and went. Well, we went to that church, and of course Mr. Buchanan did well. But when John Coble got up to introduce him, he said, Mr. Cannonball, because that's what the black people called him, Mr. Cannonball, you know. And, oh dear, we couldn't hardly keep our face straight. And you know what they did? They passed the offering plate. And if they didn't get enough, they turned around and passed it again. They did. We were there. Yes, that black church was there and operating until just a very few years ago.
So within this,
And it was Melville Christian Church, I think it was called. And then they moved it over into, where? That area across from the Honda plant. That's where it is now.
the
I can
church
show you where it is. I know where it is.
where we bought our RV, the pop-up camper.
Right across from where the Walmart is.
The Walmart?
Where they used to have the airplanes come in.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Where did the airplanes come in?
You remember when there was the little Landis trip over there?
I don't remember the Landis.
Tolar, before they built the Walmart? You don't remember airplanes coming in?
I don't remember before Walmart.
You remember the airplanes, don't you?
What?
The guy would land his airplanes over there where they built the Walmart across from Kimry's.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sure. We had an airfield right up the road, didn't you
Yeah.
know that?
Airfield.
Oh, the guy with the yellow plane. It was yellow, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad you got a picture of this
Which one is that? Oh, the pool.
at the pool,
Mm-hmm.
because Susan said she remembered it, and somebody, I don't know whether it was Brodie Cameron or somebody, but they tried to argue her out of it. She says, I know there was one there.
Well, we tried to find the tops of the concrete around the perimeter of it, and we couldn't find it out there. Me and Billy.
You couldn't find it.
So Mother Nature had grown over top of it.
Well, it's hard to tell what's happened now.
Yeah.
So what's the biggest event you ever remember at the church?
Probably homecoming.
I don't know. Or when one of the guys was governor, did they have anything big then? Or a session meeting or Presbyterian meeting?
200th anniversary, 250th anniversary, I guess. I know we had one homecoming where they invited somebody from the big shot in the presbytery. Anyway, and he preached and he preached and he preached, and we thought we were never going to get to eat. It was wonderful. No, but we did have a lot of big things that I helped with. You know, I won't say I ran them,
Yeah.
but I sure helped with them.
So would you say the church was more active back then?
Yes.
And where do you think the church is headed from here?
Don't ask me. I don't know. I hate to think of it. Of course, it's my old age, maybe. But I don't like the way a lot of things are done. I don't say they're completely wrong. I know you have to keep the young people interested. The young people have different interests from what we had.
Right.
And it's hard to tell what would keep their interest.
So many other options out there today than when the church was the center of the community. I mean, did y'all do
Yes,
other things
it
at the
was.
church? Did you vote there? Did they have any kind of community things there? Or what? You did?
Everything there.
Mhm.
But Miss Fleming would turn over in her grave if she thought, I think, that they were having Alcoholic Anonymous
Mhm.
meetings there. But if that's needed today, that's what we should do.
Mhm.
That's what the Lord said. We're supposed to take care of those who need help.
Mhm. Yeah.
I say studying the Bible and all of that is fine. We need to know what we're supposed to do. But if we know it and don't do it, what have we done? Nothing. Right?
That's right.
we got to live it.
That's right. How many ministers have you seen come through there? You got it?
Yeah, it only films for 20 minutes, so I have to keep putting it back on.
Let's see, Fleming, and then we had we didn't have interims like we do now. We just had whoever we could get. Mr. Buchanan, and then I think Sam Thomas was the one. Where's mine? Where are my notes here? I looked to see what I had here. That's not it. Because I don't have much here. I have a couple of directories. Because I brought those along so that I would have some phone numbers and addresses and what have you. And I don't know why I had these numbers down. Mr. Fleming died October the 7th, 1948. I remember that was his birthday. You see, I had been here a year. I came in March of 47. And in October the 17th of 48, the congregation appointed Robert Gibson, Mrs. Mebane, Ralph Scott. I got as a committee. I don't know whether that was all, but that's all I had down here, to secure a new minister. And Mr. Buchanan came the 1st of June of 49. I remember that distinctly. And he ate a 4th of July dinner in 59 with us. Susan and Danny were they were in the same age group, and they were at Camp New Hope that weekend. And Ruth Ann was spending the weekend or the overnight or something, with Martha Buchanan. So we had decided to just cook some hamburgers or something. So I said, well, why don't we ask the Buchanans, their kids, because we had to get Ruth Ann back home. And we did. And they said, okay, we'll come over, and we got a watermelon, if you'll let us bring the watermelon over. So we ate their watermelon, and they were that kind of people, you know. So this was Saturday night, 4th of July. Sunday morning, he gets up there in the pulpit and announces that he's leaving. I know my mouth went wider open than yours did just then. And I thought, but when I thought about it, you know, they couldn't have told us, and nobody. And Mrs. Buchanan told me later, she says, we hadn't even told our children then that we were gone when he made that announcement. And I understood, and they knew I would. So, they were just that kind of people. So I remember all, and then, let's see, that was, he left August the 9th, and in July, Well, he was supposed to, his resignation was effective July 59. And so they appointed a committee of Mrs. Dawes, that was Hugh Dawson's mother, Betsy Webster, Ralph Scott, Neil Fleming, and I got blank Webster, I don't know which one that was, and Ronnie Scott, that was Ina Scott's son. And they were to find a new one, and that was when they got Sam Thomas. So he had to have been the next one.
Now, you said you were on the committee to do the fellowship, the educational building. How did y'all determine what you needed? Did y'all decide what you wanted and then go to the architect and say, because didn't you have kindergarten rooms? Was that before you had a kindergarten?
And we had kindergarten at the church then.
Where was that?
I don't know, in those back rooms somewhere.
In the fellowship? Before they built the educational building?
In the
When you were deciding on the educational building?
I don't think we had,
Kindergarten then?
I don't believe we did.
I don't think you did either. I bet you Ellen would know that.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure we didn't. It was there at the church.
Now, did you see any times when the church, I know the church helped start other churches.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any of those times when you, after you came, that was all before you came?
That was before I came, before my time.
Because that was back when I think they helped start Camp New Hope. The New Hope Church, Crossroads was.
No, New Hope goes back further than that. New Hope goes way back.
Mm-hmm. And Graham Presbyterian came off of Hawfields, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now the church, the Oldfields, will tell that.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of Carr's people were, his great-grandfather was an elder in the Hawfields, and they left. He was a Freeland. And Greenway Park is what he owned. That's where he lived.
Mm.
And when Graham opened their church, he moved from, with another, there's a list in there, in the Church of the Oldfields, in the back of it.
Of the people that left.
Those that moved to, I can pick out, it lists the men and the women separate, but I know who was the husband and wife,
So how did you get into all this family stuff? How did you make all these?
I don't know how I did all that. It was because of Uncle Chester. He was never married, and he had lived there all his life and had gone to school with all these kids, all the old folks, and he just knew their history, told me, and I was interested in it, and that's the only thing I can say. That I was just interested in the old folks.
So would you say back then everyone was related from the church somehow, one person from another?
That what?
That they were related?
Oh yeah, I knew how they were related.
Mm-hmm.
Fact is, we have Christy Covington here. What's her husband's name?
He living here or working?
Joe's daughter-in-law, Christy.
Oh, Chris. No,
What is his name? Chris?
Chris and Connie.
No.
Oh, you're thinking Lee.
Connie.
Michael Lee.
No. I'm thinking of Joe's
Joe's-
son's. What's Joe's son's name?
Chris.
Chris. All right, his wife is Christy,
Okay. Mhm.
and she is the physical therapist
Okay.
here.
Okay. I didn't know she worked here.
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
She does.
Mhm.
And so she came in and gave me physical therapy when I first came.
Mm. Okay.
And so I straightened her out on the family. She said, you know more about the family than I do. Than Chris
She married
does.
into it.
Yeah,
Then Chris does.
He didn't know how far back it went.
Oh yeah.
I remember when his father died.
Who? Joe's father.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I'll never forget it.
Who was the oldest member of the church when you came in the 40s that you can remember?
When what?
When you came in the 40s, who were some of the older men and women?
Men? Oh, Miss Lizzie Covington, Mr. Jim Covington's wife,
Oh.
and Dewey's mother
Mhm.
and father, they were both living. And the Phillipses, Jim Phillips and Miss Lona, of course that was his sister. That was Dewey's sister.
Mhm.
The Idols, they were Evans's, Jake's uncle, his father.
Did you ever go to the governor's mansion when they were up there?
No,
Mhm.
I never went there. Carr was not an elder then, so I wasn't invited.
Is that who got to go?
Mm-mm.
What, to his inauguration or whatever? The Golden Age party.
But it was, they call me the historian around here.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, if you've lived as many years as I have and can remember yet, well,
Mm-hmm. Well, this has killed me. This whole thing full of everybody's wedding stuff. 1982. Well, these people.
now that's one thing I never had much to do with,
Scrapbooks and stuff.
was the kindergarten,
Oh, uh-huh.
because I never got on that committee, thank goodness. I was busy. See, I had 3 sets of children.
Mm-hmm.
I had the 2 older ones,
Mhm.
then I had the 3 Freshwaters,
Right.
and then I practically raised James and Mark.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, because they were right there at you, weren't they?
So I think that's what's kept me going so young. And well, I had to straighten out what Susan and Betty Kimmery the other morning. She was getting them all mixed up. I said, no, that's not right.
And there's like 2, what are their names? Who lives in the Kimmery house now? The big one with the long Betty. Now where's her sister live?
Across the road.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I don't know who lives in Betty's house in the back there, that she built back there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether she sold it or whether she probably still owns it. I'm sure she didn't sell it.
You think of any other questions you can think of, Tolar? He might have to come back and visit you again. Here's that historical quilt. Who else in this picture? Katie Strother, Joyce Covington, and Hazel Hurto.
I'm sorry I didn't have any maps to bring with me.
Well, she said part of that came across her property,
Yeah.
the old trading path. Benny probably knows about that trading path.
Yeah,
Here's the
because it went through his grandmother's.
picture of this, Tolar.
Okay.
That's where you're talking about. Is that the old post office, or was that the old,
Yes.
believed to be built in 1731?
People didn't come here until 1740.
They always said that they came from Hillsborough and changed horses at the Hughes place. And the Hughes place was where Mr. Jim and Miss Lizzie Covington lived, where Kathy and Ricky lived.
Oh.
And then they came on across to down our road, not our road, our field.
With the horses.
And then you see they went on down to Hall River, which was Gilbert Street, and I don't know.
Do you know when each different style of building was built?
Where what?
The different structures for the church. So like the first one I know is either 1738 or a 1740 with the leaves on top of it.
No.
Do you know? Okay.
Benny couldn't tell you that.
Okay.
How about choosing the decor and stuff? Did y'all help choose, or did they just go with what was the cheapest thing to construct it? Because I know in that fellowship, in that educational building, it's all concrete walls, cinder block, I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it just.
Jim, let's see, Buck Mebane, R.C., Billy's father, Mona Phillips, Jim Scott. Jim handled most of it. He was chairman of it, and I was on it. And I just probably just agreed with whatever they said. Didn't have much to say about that.
Exactly. It's like, oh. So Harriet came up here to be the director of Christian education, and she ended up marrying one of the guys? Is that what happened? I was reading her bridal. Said
What
she
was
was from
it?
South Carolina. Harriet Covington
Yeah.
was.
And she came up here as DCE and lived up in Mr. Ralph's apartment
Oh, did she?
over the house.
Over that house over there. Okay.
Over. No, it was over where Billy lives now, or his son now, I think lives there.
There used to be the barn over there. Or looks like a barn.
No, it was over the house.
Oh. I
Or
know
over
what
the
you're-
garage, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Several people lived there when they first got married, didn't they?
Yeah.
I think Auntie even said they lived there when she first got married.
I don't know about that. But I
Yeah.
know that that's where Harriet lived.
I got you.
Because Neil was living with his mama then. And they lived in right across the field, you know. Okay, if we bored you to death,
Yeah.
then
Are you gonna have to come
I've ran
back?
out of questions, to be honest.
Do what now? You've
I've-
run out of questions.
Yeah.
unless
Um,
Miss Freshwater has something that she remembers that she thinks
is
people
there
ought to know.
anything you would like to share?
I can't think of right now. I was trying to think what you might ask, and I just didn't know
Mhm.
what type things you wanted.
Right, right.
And I think we've covered a good bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. I think it has helped to know. I was talking to Fenton and Eva the other day, and she was talking about how she remembered doing Sunday school and how Bible school was the biggest thing of the summer, and
Right.
Bible school was a big affair.
Well, they drove the bus, church bus,
To bring
around and picked up the kids. Oh, I don't know. It was a big number they had. Well, that was the first thing. And I've been trying to think. We came here we got here on a Saturday night. Car had to start work Monday morning, Western Electric. And we slept in that old house there. Anyway, Monday morning I took him to work, took Kenneth and Bob and got them in school down here. They went to school in New Jersey on Friday. We drove down on Saturday. They went to school on Monday. Alexander Wilson. What did I start to tell you? Anyway, so that first week I cleaned that house. The people that lived in it were slobs at the best.
Mhm.
And I cleaned and cleaned. And Carr's father came over and he says, well, you don't know what I took out of here.
zoom in on
So
this.
anyway, I went to the grocery store, and Uncle Chester took me to town to see what type furniture where and what else I needed. And so Saturday, Carr and I went and looked at it and bought what we needed. And it was delivered on Saturday afternoon. And Mr. Fleming came by while we were unpacking things and everything. And he says, I see you're busy, but I want to invite you to church. And he says, the boys here, news spread. These two little Yankees were here in Alexander Wilson's school for the first time, So he said, I'll send the church bus around to pick them up. I said, okay. So they went to church that Sunday. They sent the bus around to pick him up. And if I'm not mistaken, Odell Smith was driving that bus then. You knew who Odell Smith was? You remember him?
Who was he?
Maybe it was the son.
Yeah, Annie Smith. Now, you knew Annie Smith.
Yeah, I know who she was.
Well, it was her husband, and he worked at Western Electric on second shift. Now, that's one thing you can tell about. We had I won't say we had a committee a nominating committee. We had voters selected from the floor, from votes on the floor. Well, Odell Smith got put on one year. I said, I know Odell Smith is a good man. He would make a good elder, deacon, we were voting on then. But the deacons were the ones who did all the work. The elders only ruled. And the deacons met once a month in somebody's home, and they were fed a meal. And I could not vote for Odell Smith because I knew what work those deacons had on them. They needed all the help they could get. Even though Odell was a good man. And he would do it if he was there. But he worked second shift. He could not do what the others did. And I could not vote for him. Now maybe my thinking was wrong. I don't know, but that was the way I felt. Of course, talk about the young people having their first vote when they joined the church. I remember when Susan was had just joined the church, her first year to vote. This was going to be her first vote. So that morning, Sunday morning at the breakfast table, something was said about who we were going to vote for. Now, I don't know whether it came up, well, we can vote for whoever we want to, you know how they go at that age, 13 I think it was, something like that. And I said, well, I don't have a word to say about who you're voting for. But they read off the name, and one of the names was somebody. And I said, I don't think he would be good deacon material. That was all I said. I have no idea who she voted for or anything. But I'll bet you it wasn't 10 years later, wasn't that long, when she came home, Mother, do you remember when we were voting on deacons and you told me that this person would not be good deacon material? I said, yes, I remember. She says, now I know what you meant. She had found out things by herself, without.
So what
She'd
was
been propositioned, in other words.
Oh yeah. What did your kids have to go through to join the church? Did they have to go through a process? Confirmation or anything?
I don't think they called it.
Commitments class.
They had a class.
Uh-huh.
What do you have now? Confirmation?
It's
or-
confirmation, yeah.
I don't think it was that, but they had some sort of a class. But this was way back anyway.
Billy said they
Let's
do
see,
it the
she's
same way.
65 now.
How about Christmas? What kind of traditions did y'all have at Christmas?
Where, here?
At Hawfields? Traditions. Are they pretty much the same, or have they changed?
They always had a bag of something for the kids from Santa Claus, or and for the older folks, old folks too. But other than that, I don't know.
And at Easter, was there anything special at Easter, or
I don't
no? Just regular service or whatnot?
I don't remember anything at Easter. And the Advent is comparatively new, lighting the candles. Of course, we did that a few years ago.
I remember that, when y'all did that. Why don't you zoom in on her pictures, Tolar, and see,
Okay.
show.
Well, before I stop filming, since you have so much wisdom, I'm going to ask just any the advice that you would share with the audience.
Be there. Show them that you care. That the church means something to you. That we need to keep that church there. Not particularly exactly as it is, but that church has history Don't let it fly away. Your church is going to mean a lot to your children and to those who are watching you and see what you do. You have to love one another, speak to them, whether they come in dressed up or a trucker on the back seat. Make him welcome, black or white.
Here, that's recorded.
So I'm videoing. Okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna get a picture with you. I'm gonna get a picture with you.
Okay.
Y'all move over there so that light.
Okay.
How about,
Am I doing a picture or a video?
there we go.
Picture.
I'm too close. Why?
See how much you've grown since you were a little boy? I've seen you since way down
That's right.
here.
That's right. There we go. That's a good one. Oh,
I
I'm
know
still
you
too
got
close.
tired of me talking to you, saying, "Oh, look how you've grown." You see the
Oh.
well right there?
Mm-hmm.
Now that's the well. So the house sat right there.
Oh.
That one did.
And who lived in that house before y'all?
Which one?
The old
The
house.
old one. I don't know. Everybody, I
A
think.
lot of people.
Yeah. They rented it. Carr's father owned it.
Mm-hmm.
And still has renting out places to people over